So this is the Irish Sea, and we're going to send this camera rig to the bottom to see what's swimming around down there.
And it turns out that the deep waters of the Irish Sea aren't barren at all. In fact, they're home to some enormous creatures, although getting a camera to the bottom definitely wasn't easy.
And the first spot we're going to try is about 100 metres deep. So we've got some big old mackerel, and we've got some squid. There is the buffet. And we're off.
At around 85 metres, the bottom here is covered in a light sandy sediment that's picked up and carried away by surprisingly strong currents, revealing one of the Irish Sea's most interesting bottom-dwelling critters. I believe this is a Rugo's squat lobster, a scavenging crustacean that's not a true lobster, but more closely related to hermit crabs, like this one. This species is armed with particularly long claws, earning the really original common name of the long-clawed squat lobster. They're also likely a nice snack for the creature that showed up next. This is a small spotted cat shark, lesser spotted dogfish, rough hound, sandy dogfish, or a morgay, depending on where you're from. One of the UK's most abundant shark species. Their flanks are lined with small dark spots or rosettes, a pattern that they share with another species, the bullhuss. These two sharks are pretty easily confused, identified based on the length of their nasal grooves, their size and pattern of their spots, and their size. The bullhuss or nursehound can get much larger, so big in fact that they've been known to eat the smaller cat sharks. Both species are cat sharks though, thought to be named because of their feline-like eyes. They're benthic or demersal predators, meaning they hunt on or near the bottom. Small spotted cat sharks rely heavily on their smell and electroreception to dig around for small crustaceans and mollusks, like the squat lobsters. In contrast, the larger bullhuss will regularly prey on large fish and cephalopods, like octopus. And as we find out soon enough, big octopus are incredibly aggressive. However, I don't think either species could take on the animal that showed up next. This is a spiny or European spider crab, a dinner plate-sized crustacean, a nomadic scavenger, that, owing to its pretty pathetic claws, favours feeding on algae, weeds and other small fleshy things. Bizarrely, all the squat lobsters in the near vicinity seem to follow this one as if it were their lord and saviour. But the spider crabs aren't the only large shelled critters that patrol these sandy bays. Whoever named this crab was feeling particularly inspired though, because this is a brown crab. You can tell a lot about the diet and behaviours of crustaceans by looking at their claws. The brown crab's large crushers are designed for breaking shells and fending off rivals. It seemed the spider crab knew this and wanted nothing to do with it, albeit seemingly ended up in a panic as it retreated directly into the camera structure and got itself temporarily stuck. Its choice of escape route after becoming unstuck was also a little bit strange. After some time, once the large crabs had had their fill, the cat sharks and small bullhuss gathered in larger numbers, frenzying and kicking up the sand. The commotion attracted other species like whiting and pouting that hovered on the sidelines, hopeful to pick off a scrap or two. But all the commotion, sooner rather than later, was bound to attract much bigger animals. This is an adult bullhuss, an incredibly aggressive and bold bottom-dwelling predator that seemingly bites anything. This one appears to suction feed the sand, in the hope of pulling out something edible and pumping whatever it can't eat back out through its gill slits. It's interesting to see how these sharks seemingly just refuse to use their eyes when searching for prey. The mackerel on top of the cage seemed almost invisible to all of these sharks, although the large bullhuss did eventually swim into it, likely by accident, and tear off a large chunk. Whilst these cat sharks don't rely heavily on their eyes for feeding, they also don't seem to use them much for avoiding predators either. Perhaps this small cat shark, like the felines it was named after, also believes it has 9 lives. But whilst the action played out on the bottom, we had problems at the surface. The current started to pick up, which after some time resulted in this. Despite the rig moving on the bottom, the cat shark still seemed pretty happy feeding, but at the surface we had a much bigger problem.
Well, it's not good news because we've currently lost the rig. The buoys have gone down. I'm just hoping it comes back up again as the tide drops. It's up here somewhere.
Needless to say, it was a pretty long 5 hours waiting for the buoys to resurface, and from that point on, we scaled things up a little. Back down at 85 metres, the camera rig eventually found its footing again, albeit the wrong way up, giving us a better view of life on the bottom. These are brittle stars, a group of echinoderms that readily shed their arms to escape predators. There are numerous species in British waters, all of which row their bodies across the sand rather than using small feet to walk. Fun fact about brittle stars is they don't actually have blood. They use seawater to transport oxygen and nutrients through their bodies. They can also get pretty big. Fortunately for the brittle stars, they're likely not at the top of the menu for the bullhuss, especially when larger, fleshier prey is abundant. Now, throughout this drop, you may also have noticed this fish. This is a grey gurnard, one of the 3 or 4 common gurnard or sea robin species that call the Irish Sea home. Now, gurnards are pretty weird. They're shaped like a doorstop with a nose job, with enormous pectoral fins that they fan out to confuse both prey and predators. But they also do something much weirder. Gurnards have modified pectoral fins. The first 3 spines have become legs. They use them to pull themselves across the seabed, helping them conserve energy and perhaps creep up on unsuspecting prey. Beyond their visual appearance though, they're also known for the noises they make. When caught or when they bump into something, they do this. Whilst the brittle stars and crabs on the seabed had waited very patiently, eventually the current subsided, and the bait cage fell to the floor for a small creature feast. And luckily for me, this coincided with the boys deciding to show themselves after spending about 4 hours under the surface.
Oh, we found the boys. There they are, if you can see them on the horizon. Okay, ready?
1,
2, 3. Oh, hang on. And this is the state of the buoy. Needless to say, I think that's gone pretty deep. Okay, so we're going to try a bit shallower now. Back near the coastline, we're going to try and find some shallower water species or some deeper water species that sometimes come shallower. So things like tope, smooth hounds, maybe some big skate as well. We're in about 22 meters of water currently. I have made some slight, oh, blimey, just fell over. I have made some slight adjustments to the rig. So we've now got 2 lights, 1 here, 2 here, just for more brightness and a better spread. The camera is lower now. We have a side mounted bait rig here. Other than that, same as, oh no, most important thing, we now have side mounted ballast, which hopefully makes it a lot easier to deploy and retrieve. So we're not lifting 50, 60 kilos of rig over the side of the boat. 3, 2, 1, oh. Yep, right.
Now, cat sharks also hunt in the shallows. It's really interesting to see the range of depths that these sharks can occupy, just as at home in the sunlit bays as they are in the deep dark waters of the Irish Sea. There are records of small spotted cat sharks at depths greater than 500 metres. This adaptability is in part down to their generalist diet that they find using smell and electroreception that function regardless of depth. The shallows are also home to bony fishes though, like pollock and whiting, as well as this species, a coalfish. Many of these fish look similar, identified by subtle differences in their anatomies and behaviours. The coalfish, for example, has a straight lateral line and a slight underbite. Whilst ravaging a cage full of bait is not their preferred feeding strategy, this one was likely hopeful that the hungry cat sharks might kick up a small bite or 2 for it to feed on. But other creatures with no bones at all are also attracted to the scent erupting from the cage. This octopus is one of the 2 native species in the UK, the curled octopus. Curled octopus are smaller than the common octopus, armed with a single row of suckers versus the common octopus's 2. In well-lit conditions, they're a reddish-orange to rusty brown colour, with a white underside. Like many cephalopods, they spend the days tucked up inside crevices, waiting for the cover of darkness to feed, although this one clearly couldn't resist a daytime forage. Now, for the cat sharks, these octopus are likely competitors, but also almost certainly prey. For half an hour, the octopus and cat shark played cat and mouse. Whenever the sharks were within range, the octopus would jet off to maintain some distance. On one occasion, it even changed its colour, using chromatophores in its skin, perhaps for camouflage, perhaps as a warning. Given the past performance of cat sharks when trying to locate the bait though, I'm not sure this octopus will have too much trouble avoiding becoming dinner anytime soon. The cat shark's feeble attempts to tear off chunks of mackerel from on top of the cage are also a good indication that even if caught, the octopus probably doesn't have too much to worry about. Now, curled octopus, like most octopus, primarily eat crustaceans. They inject venom through their beaks to disable them, as I learned the hard way whilst releasing one from a fishing hook. This is my healthy hand, and this is the other one. The pain was similar to a bee sting, with the swelling eventually reaching my elbow. Definitely would not recommend. The shallows were also home to our nosy doorstop fish, although this one is actually a red gurnard, a prized fish with blotchy bright red flanks, and the telltale spreadable pectoral fins and walking legs. Whilst the shallows were home to a number of species, on this day we didn't record anything big. Maybe the big stuff was waiting in the deep, in an area known not only for big fish, but also for something a little bit more hazardous.
So we're currently heading out now to the deep spot, to the edge of Beaufort's Dyke. It's about 2 or 3 miles in that direction. We've got to be a little bit careful though, because Beaufort's Dyke is actually well known for being a major munitions dumping ground. So there's all sorts of old munitions, radioactive waste, gases, I don't know what else down there. So we'll probably pick a sensible spot to drop the camera. In typical fashion, it's not always a good idea to drop right at the bottom of the slope on the flat bay area, because it's not really a good feature for big sharks and skates and other things to patrol. So, I just stubbed my toe on the winch. So we're likely going to drop it on the top of the slope. The hope being, of course, that big predators, maybe a 6-gill shark if we're super lucky, will come up the slope and patrol the ridge looking for things to snack on. To be honest, I don't think anyone has ever had a camera down in the dike, so we've got no idea what we're going to find. Of course, the only real knowledge of what's down there is from fishermen and trawlers and all that kind of stuff. So there could be some big things down there that are just very good at escaping both nets and hooks. And fingers crossed we're going to film them. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 3. Ready when you are.
Ready,
3.
1, 2, 3, up. Yeah.
Just the studs. Oh, down we go.
Armed with significantly more ballast and much bigger buoys holding the line vertically up to the surface, we managed to hold bottom at about 155 metres. Even in currents so strong, you probably wouldn't be able to swim in them. Whilst currents make dropping cameras more difficult, they also help spread the scent, bringing in life from far and wide. And again, it was the cat sharks that found the bait first. Now, you perhaps know that the skin of sharks is made from dermal denticles, essentially small teeth. The small spotted cat shark has particularly rough skin though, and whilst you can't feel it, you can hear just how rough it is when they scrape up against the metal frame. They're also capable of buccal pumping, laying motionless on the seabed, contracting their mouth and jaw muscles to flush fresh water over their gills. The bait cage, it seems, makes for a nice pillow in between feeding attempts. The bullhuss have sharp sandpaper-like skin too, and are just as aggressive in the deep as they are in shallower water. The squat lobster found itself in a pretty bad spot. But there's also a new species of shark down here, one that looks a lot more like a regular shark, that hovers off the bottom and is armed with venomous spines in front of its dorsal fins. This is a spur dog, sometimes referred to as a spiny dogfish. Now, spur dogs are a group of sharks that are widely distributed across the globe. In places like Indonesia, I've recorded multiple species in the same area, but here in the UK, this species, Squalus acanthius, is the only one with notable abundance, especially at these depths. The white lights on the frame are likely causing these spur dogs some confusion. A number of spur dogs visited the camera down at 155 metres. When small, their flanks are lined with white spots, but when larger, those spots almost completely disappear. This large and possibly pregnant female is likely close to max size. The deep waters are also home to strange crustaceans, like what appears to be another species of spider crab, perhaps a scorpion spider crab. These smaller crabs are likely decorators, actively attaching pieces of algae, weed and debris to their carapaces to blend in and avoid predators. Predators like this. This is a flapper skate, the biggest skate in the world. reaching lengths of up to 3 meters and weighing more than 100 kilograms. Flapper skate can live to be 100 years old, spending their lives wriggling around in the dark, sucking up prey hidden under the sand, or in this case, the mackerel strapped to the top of the cage. A true giant of the Irish Sea.
By the way guys, if you want to see all the raw footage from these drops before it makes it here on YouTube, make sure to go and check out my Patreon. Every time I film something really cool, it goes on there first. There is a small fee to join, but all of the money that's generated through the Patreon goes into funding these crazy deep ocean adventures. So if you want to check that out, there's a QR code on the screen now. But regardless of what you decide to do guys, all I'll ever ask is that you watch these videos. Really appreciate the support. Let's go film some cool stuff.
I'm planning on dropping a camera to the bottom of Beaufort's Dyke soon, so subscribe if you want to see what we find. Oh, and if you're in the mood for more, I'm 100% sure you will love this video.